that you may have missed. Because that is very important. So, jumping in, the Serbian president warns of great world conflict within 2 months. Worst situation since World War II. And this was from yesterday. So the president of Serbia has warned the planet is entering into a great world conflict that could take place within the next 2 months. Alexander Vucic made the alarming comments during the first day of the UN General Assembly session in New York. You see a crisis in every part of the world, he told the Serbian state broadcaster. I think realistic predictions ought to be even darker. Our position is even worse since the UN has been weakened and the great powers have taken over and practically destroyed the UN over the past several decades. Well, destroying the UN is not a bad thing. The Serbian leader cautioned that the war between Russia and Ukraine has moved on to a far deadlier phase. I assume that we're leaving the phase of special military operation and approaching a major armed conflict. Now the question becomes, where is the line, and whether after a certain time, maybe a month or two even, we will enter a great world conflict not seen since the Second World War. Yep. Vucic's remarks were made on the same day that the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, ordered an immediate partial mobilization of troops amounting to 300,000 soldiers. And they will use all of the means at our disposal to protect Moscow's territorial integrity. And Russia's Ukraine, there is a vote that's occurring within some of the more eastern Ukrainian provinces about whether to join Russia.
You know, something I heard that was interesting about there, because of those votes that are supposed to take place in those regions in Russia or in Ukraine, is the theory is that if they end up voting to join Russia, then if the Ukraine tries to invade and to retake those areas, then Russia, I guess,
say it's a declaration of war because it's an invasion.
Yeah. Well, that, that it's an invasion of their own territory can justify
further use of force.
Further use of force, including potentially, tactical nukes or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. There's a lot of things that could happen in the next, couple of months. Obviously, we're all kind of holding our breath. Taiwan. China is definitely making a lot of gestures that seem to be suggesting that they want to invade. Obviously, Iran is always a threat because they're clearly working. Well, they're working on their nuclear bombs and all that. I mean, they're a big enough threat that even Israel felt the need to go in there and to sabotage their nuclear program. So, I mean, you got to give Iran something there, and we're going to see some extreme volatile times coming soon because there's going to be food shortages. There's going to be a massive energy crisis all the stuff leads to a lot of countries and a lot of uncertainty. So we'll see. Maybe he's onto something, but keep an eye on it. All right. So this next story is from the Post Millennial. Breaking: Facebook could lift Trump's suspension by 2023. Facebook announced in January of last year that it would block Trump from his platforms until January 20th, the day Biden was set to be sworn in. That ban has remained in place ever since. So here's what actually happened. So former President Donald Trump could have his Facebook ban lifted in 2023. Nick Clegg of Meta Platforms said an event at an event in Washington, D.C. According to Gina Chon of Semaphore Media, Clegg is speaking with experts to assess whether the move should be made. It's the first time Clegg, who is president of Global Affairs that is in charge of deciding whether to lift the limit, has publicly discussed his limits. Obviously, they made a commitment that they would keep it on. We believe the risks of allowing the president to continue to use our service during this period are simply too great. Oh, give me a break. Therefore, we are expanding the block we have placed on his Facebook and Instagram accounts indefinitely and for at least the next 2 weeks until the peaceful transition of power is complete. So, what is going on? It's likely that Trump is going to run again.
Yep.
Very likely. After the midterms, you're going to probably see either DeSantis and Trump declare or both. We'll see what happens. But I think what's going to happen is that Facebook is realizing that if Trump runs again, there's going to be some very dicey legal aspects of banning. Because I think the reason why they couldn't kick Trump off Twitter's because he was a sitting president, and there was some kind of like legal thing that like a sitting president can't be banned from social media or something like that. So I think that's possibly them trying to cover themselves for that possibility. So we'll see what happens. Because let's face it, if they choose to keep him off Facebook indefinitely, even during his re-election, and if he gets elected again, guess who one of the first people or first companies that Trump will come after he's elected president? It'll be Facebook. So a lot of this sounds like self-preservation. So anyway, Stephen, take the next one.
Indeed. Alrighty. So California has legalized human composting.
Lovely.
By 2027, the Golden State residents will have the choice to turn their bodies into a nutrient-rich compost.
So lovely.
They've joined a growing number of states that allow residents to compost their bodies after death. A new law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom directs California officials to develop regulations for the practice known as natural organic reduction. Washington became the first state in the nation to legalize human composting, followed by Colorado and Oregon. Human composting typically involves putting a body in a steel vessel, then covering it with organic materials like straw, wood chips, and alfalfa. Microbes, of course, break down the corpse and the plant matter, transforming the various components into a nutrient-rich soil in roughly 30 days. Staffers of the special human composting funeral homes then remove the compost from the vessel and allowed to cure for 2 to 6 weeks. Family members can use the human compost or any other type of compost, such as mixing it into a flower bed. They can donate it to be spread in conservation areas. Just don't. I would advise not to use it to make vegetables.
Because then you're eating
you're eating the nutrients of your loved ones.
I called me old-fashioned, but I miss the days when like human remains were considered sacred. Like so sacred that like one of the biggest punishments that God promised on Israel for their horrible sin is that they would be left out unburied alive. That was like the worst that God could promise them. Their like human remains were going to be like lying out in the fields for the birds to eat and all that. And let's face it, for a lot of the history of the West, one of the biggest difficulties was finding bodies to be able to practice on, because it was considered to be a massive taboo to dishonor a human body by basically picking through it after it's died and all that. Well, we've come full circle now. Now, like, have you ever been to a funeral, Stephen, where and all the offers they give you, they can take the teeth of your deceased ones and make jewelry out of them, their fingerprints. It's almost like grim. It's incredibly grim what they do.
It is.
Human bodies. It's culture of death out there. All right, next story. We got this story from the Post. Dilbert author claims
I switched them. Sorry. You get the James Top.
You suck. Okay, fine. I'm going to switch it up.
You wanted to talk about the James Top.
Oh, I just kind of brought it up. Anyway, so we're going to talk about James Top instead because Steven's unorganized. Anyways, this from the Counter Signal. Hero veteran James Top sues legacy media journalist for slander. If anybody doesn't know who James Top is, he was the Army veteran who decided to march from, I think it was from Vancouver, all the way to Ottawa in protest of the government's COVID policies. The notice mentions journalist Rachel Gilmore, Global News and Chorus Entertainment Inc. as defendants. The defamatory article, inclusive of the URL tag, referred to Mr. Top as a white supremacist, among other things, wrote the lawyer. It was published without providing any evidence supporting their statements. Top marched across Canada, so we already covered that. We conduct ourselves with dignity, strength, and endurance at all times, said Top at a stop in Ontario. If you're having issues, get a hold of somebody. Make sure you have water and food, mind the traffic, and be safe. Keep your head up. Don't block intersections. At all times, look out for each other. When first published, the August 18th piece titled "Good PR: Why Anti-Hate Experts Are Urging Politicians to Step Up Vetting Practices" had the words "White Supremacist Far Right" beside Top's names in the URL. Take notice that Mr. Top intends to plead that the defamatory works were made deliberately, irresponsibly, and with malice. Now, here's a couple of things about this whole thing. Is the news media above this? No, not at all. Like, they're all a bunch of scammers, and like the media completely and totally made up a million lies about not only the truckers, the convoy, but clearly about Mr. Top. But another thing that's difficult, it's incredibly difficult to successfully win a defamation case. Because yes, you can prove that what was said was defamatory and did actually cause harm or either monetary, social harm or other kind of harms to the person. Mm-hmm. But the problem is proving motive.
Yeah.
Proving that the people knew what they were doing was defamatory. And so I've heard many experts from like Viva Fry to even Stephen Crowder talked about it to a lot of other people. They've said that it's very difficult to make a defamation charge stick. So if Top is suing, that means that they must have like fairly decent case, because otherwise they're just throwing a whole bunch of money in. So I wish him well. I definitely hope he wins. The legacy news media, particularly global, is completely and totally corrupt. I mean, there's a reason why global news is
going on
basically on the brink of bankruptcy. So, yeah, all the best to Top. I hope he does well. This guy is legitimately a commendable hero, Canadian hero. I think he deserves not to the same extent as Terry Fox, but he's up there in terms of Canadian figures that should be praised as commendable and honorable. So yeah, James Top, take it, Stephen.
All right. So Dilbert author claims woke mob is coming for his comic strip as it removed from 77 newspapers. Dilbert author Scott Adams, who's been drawing the comic since 1989, said the strip that pokes fun at the office culture was wiped from nearly 77 newspapers. So Lee Enterprises, which owns nearly 100 newspaper companies, terminated the contract with Dilbert for unknown reasons. Well, it's not unknown reasons. It's part of a larger overhaul, I believe, of comics, but why they decided what was in and what was out, that's not known to anyone except them, I guess, said Adams, who noted it was coincidentally happening after he incorporated wokeness into the stories. The artist said that several of the comic strips were also cancelled by Lee Enterprises, but each decision was made individually. The Post reached out to Lee Enterprises and Adams for comments. And of course, Dilbert has appeared in thousands of newspapers across the US and spawned several Dilbert-themed calendars, books, and even in a TV show that ran from 1999 to 2000. Recently, Adams started poking fun at the ESG movement, also known as the Environmental, Social, and Governance movement. In a recent strip from Tuesday, he introduced a new character named Dave, who is black but identifies as white. All the wokeness and anything that permeated from ESG, so that stuff made its way into the business world, and then it became proper content for Dilbert. Do they have a picture of... Yeah, I don't... Here, I'll see if I can find it. Dilbert ESG strip. Our ESG will drop if we open a new factory that adds CO2 to the atmosphere. I believe we could balance that out by adding more diversity to our board. How much CO2 do you plan to add? Our one non-binary board member's worth.
Got to balance it out. See, that's funny. That's actually
really
it
is
decent.
Funny.
Yeah. Even Rose is bad. Spirit will not assist in nature, it never can.
Yeah, I don't know if this one's related to ESG.
Yeah, but this is the way of the world. Did you listen to the Timcast IRL from yesterday, Steven?
A little bit of it. I listened to the beginning.
So basically, they Timcast had two independent rock stars who had to go independent because, unfortunately, what they described was a music industry that is rapidly going after people, all sorts of, and basically telling them all that you either comply with what we demand, or we're going to completely, we're basically going to remove you and make you invisible, make sure nobody can follow you. Mm-hmm. So it's working everywhere: music, business, even comic strips. So
yeah, well, this one is good. Dogbert's ESG rating service. Your core business involves giving digital lobotomies to other people's children, but you don't pollute as much as you could. And you did ask me for my pronouns, so I'm giving you the top ESG rating. This feels right. I think we're making a difference. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. Some of these are funny.
Good old Dilbert.
Good old Dilbert. So yes, this
should
not have been taken off.
That shows you that if you're funny, you're not going to do well in Hollywood or in popular culture.
In the new woke popular culture, you are not going to be. Okay, I'll check that. I will check all that out, Jeremy. But not today.
You'll check what out?
Oh, red heifers in Israel.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
So
if anybody's not aware, and probably a lot of people aren't aware of this, I'll very quick little recap. What's going on is there are a lot of rumors and a lot of people talking that Israel, particularly the cultural Israel, that they probably have most, if not all, of the requirements that are needed to build a new temple. Mm-hmm. They need the Ark of the Covenant, and there's a lot of rumors that they already have it, but they're keeping it under wraps. They need a lot of priests and all that to be able to kind of do the stuff, and sounds like they already have that. But the big thing, and this is one of the things that was kind of a big deal for a long time, is there's a very, very little known requirement in the law that says that you have to have a red heifer, which is a red cow, and it explicitly is crucial in order to be able to dedicate the temple. Without this cow, this red heifer, you cannot properly follow the law and thus make the temple actually ready to stand. So the fact that Jeremy brought up the red heifer is he's bringing up the fact that they now have a large collection of red heifers, and that there's a lot of speculation of whether or not they're maybe planning to build a new temple within the next couple of years. And one big thing I'll let you guys know, because I've studied this, they don't need to build a temple where the Dome of the Rock is, because the actual location is most likely not anywhere near the Dome of the Rock. So they can actually build a temple without disturbing the Muslim
without trying
holy
to
place.
Have the whole international conflict and
obviously that's a big contentious thing. So
mounds.
We'll see what happens with that. So yeah.
Anyways, all right. So you can continue with this last story.
Take the last one. Okay, so this is from Blaze Media. There's a video of a New York City man stabbed to death in dispute over not saying thank you. And this was a real thing. Actually, Stephen, rather than me jump into the story, why don't you actually play the video at the very bottom? Because it's worth. This is a new story of what actually happened. So
yeah, this is messed up.
Yeah.
More developing right now. Police in Brooklyn are searching for a killer after a man was fatally stabbed last night. Police say
this shows kind of the progression of the fight going in and out of the store. We're told there were a lot of words exchanged between the victim and the suspect. And then ultimately, someone who works at the store tells me the suspect went outside, and it looks like he got a knife from the bike that he was on, the e-bike that he was on, and ultimately that led to that deadly stabbing. The store owner says, not the store owner, the store employee actually, says that he called 911. They were here right away.
My goodness.
Yep. So basically what happened was there was a shop, like a smoke shop in Brooklyn. Somebody held the door open for somebody else. And once they went in, the guy got really mad. He's like, aren't you gonna say thank you for me opening the door? And apparently they had a bit of a dispute. It got escalated, got heated. They started basically, physically getting into a physical altercation. And like they said, one of the guys went out to get a knife from his e-bike, and they ended up getting one guy ended up getting stabbed. Now he ended up dying because of this altercation. Now, the reason why this is big news is because New York City is so quickly descending into an actual like complete dystopia of massive proportions. Like there are people getting killed in broad daylight on the subway, by getting stabbed or hit by a homeless person with a rock. There's Asian hate crimes that are happening. Violence and crime are exploding to a degree that it's unfathomable. Like I don't even know like if the number can be held up. But normally, this story shows how out of hand it's gotten. That a dispute over saying thank you, which you're in New York. Good luck getting anyone to say thank you.
Yeah, New York.
Like a dispute over saying thank you. It's now leading to somebody getting stabbed to death. Like that is how crazy it is. Like I've talked to my family, a lot of my, and I remember like hearing from them. They would. I'm like, do you ever get like robbed? They're like, oh yeah, it's like such a common occurrence that they would actually go on they go on a bus or the subway. They would actually carry a spare wallet. This is a real thing. They would carry an extra wallet with a little bit of money on it because if somebody came on that bus and demanding that people hand over their wallets, they would give them the fake wallet, so that their real wallet wasn't, they didn't have to get rid of their real wallet. And even though some people like caught on to this, they were like, that they're fine with that because you're at least giving them something, and it's more difficult to actually get anything out of like credit cards and bank cards or whatever. So that was normal for them. They lived in a city where literally you could be killed at any moment, and I was like, that's insane. Who can live in a city like that? Well, now. New York City is now becoming that kind of city. And it's crazy. Like living in Calgary, I can't imagine that kind of thing, like to that scale. But living in New York City is, geez, like how can anybody live in a city like that? Yeah. So yeah, pray for the people out there because they are really struggling. New York City.
New York City. This is what happens when your city and your district and your state is run by leftists. Our city is run by a leftist.
I was going to say our city is run
by a crazy leftist.
That means, unfortunately, that a few years down the line, our city is going to basically devolve into a completely unlivable city.
Well, our cops have already become agents of a corrupt state.
Yeah.
They have been for a while. Like, whenever I see the police here in Calgary, I'm just like,
yeah.
I used to trust you, and I definitely don't now.
Yeah, it's sad.
But now we're going to move on to Nothing to See Here.